Dum 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 dum. Dum dum dum. Dum 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 dum. And we're live. No, we're not live, but we're on. So guys, last time we did a tutorial with this. So we created this. Awesome. Okay, so last time we created this navigation menu and this login form, and each time we clicked on an icon, this text here changed to the icon we clicked on. So Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. And also if we clicked on the login button, it changed this color. So these are actions. This is not hover, these are actions, and these are only done with CSS. But in this video, we're going to do it with SASS. So let's jump into it. Okay, so for those of you who are not familiar with SASS, you first of all need a few things. So go into your extensions and search for, first of all, live server. This would be this one right here. Install this one, and then just type in SASS, live SASS compiler. This is really important. This will compile your SASS. So pause the video right now, install it, then come back to it. Also, we are not going to write the HTML or the SASS. I already did that in the previous video. You could actually check out the previous video in the description below. I will leave a link there. I will also go through the HTML really briefly, just explain what we did there. And yeah, let's jump into it. So if you have your SASS compiler installed, we will first create a folder. We'll call this SASS. In our SASS folder, we'll create a file. We'll call this main SCSS. So if you don't know, you can write either SASS or so it's SASS or SCSS in SASS. They're written a bit different, but they're basically the same. Now, next thing we're going to create some sorry about that. Next thing we're going to create some components. And this is really important, so you have to type in this underline right here, and then type in config.scss, then another file that we will call variables.scss. What the hell? Oh, don't need you. F2, no problem, SCSS. Then we have a nav, no, actually a Mixin. So Mixin.scss. Next we need a nav.scss. And the last thing we need is a main. No, not a main. What did I create there? So we have the form.scss. And I'm doing this just to keep everything separate from one another. Now within our main, we have to import all of this. And the way you do that in SASS, just type in @import. And now we'll just import this is really important. You have to import them in the exact order that they are, how should I say this? If something needs something for another file, so if one file needs something for another file, then it's going to, exactly like CSS cascading style sheet, it will take it from the top to the bottom. It will take the information from the top to the bottom. So the first thing we'll type in is the configuration, so the config. Then we can actually just copy this one more time. Next we will, so we have the config, then the variables, this is very important. And then the mixins. So Mixin, then nav, and then form. Okay. Now, as soon as you would, so if in order for us to create our SASS file, you need to click on this watch SASS. Click on this, and as soon as you clicked on this folder will be created. And within this folder is where our SASS will live, our new SASS file, our new CSS, sorry about that. Your CSS file will live. Okay, so as I said, I already did create this video using CSS. So let's go over the HTML really quickly. We used Font Awesome. You can either use the CDN or if you have a kit on Font Awesome, you can copy that one in. I can actually comment this out. Then we gave it a title, and this time I'm going to name it using SASS. Then we created a nav tag, which we gave it class of icon bar. Within this nav class, we created 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 h tags, and within each h tag, with the class of icon, and the first one has the class of active, so this one, the home. We created one icon tag. Actually, it's an italic tag, but is used for icons now in HTML5, and one span tag, and the span is where this lives, this text. When we hover over our icons, the text appears, and this is where our icons live. So this icon's right here for Facebook, Instagram, and so far and so on. Then we created the main section with an h1. So actually we contained all of this within this div, and within this div with the class of container, form container, we contained our h1, so this, our h2, this, and within the h1 we have 5 span tags. Each span tag will be made invisible and will be made visible when called through this click action. Okay, so if I click on home, they all disappear. If I click on the Facebook appears. Now further on we have this form, which we gave a class of social form, and we just have a few labels for the username and password, and 2 input tags for the password and the username, and 1 submit button with the value of login. So that's pretty much it. We also have this footer, but you can ignore this for right now. We're not taking care of this. So basically that's it for the HTML. Now let's go into our config, and within our config I'm just going to take this basic configuration, copy it in, hit save, and now actually the CSS folder should have been created. Oh, we have to click watch SASS. Okay, now SASS is watching. Hit save again. Why do I have an error? Let's check this out. Import config SCSS. Let's check out our main. Let's actually close everything up here. Oh, I have an N. Spell check. Variables. 2 spell checks. Great. Okay, now Now, if you have an error, this will display as error. If you hit save and success is displayed, then the file is created. And now we can actually go up here, comment out our style, and comment in our main CSS. And now I have to open it because this is the old one. So open our HTML with live server, close up the other one. Actually, I wanted to leave that one open because I want to constantly show you the difference. Good. Now, this is actually everything that we need for our configuration. So let's go over this really quickly. So we resetted everything with the margin 0, padding 0, box underneath the border box. All stylish should have no style, so none. Text decoration should be none, and the font size should be 16 pixels, the base font size. And that's basically it for our configuration file, so we can close it. Next up, we're gonna go into our variables. Within our variables, as we had here in our CSS, these are CSS variables, but in SASS, they look like this. So let me actually create these variables. I'm just going to create a comment here. Social media colors. Okay, let's create, I'm just going to copy this one in and really quickly go over them. So the way we create variables in SASS is by hitting the $, then giving it a name. In this case, the primary color would be the hash of FFF. Then we have a secondary color, should be dark, a user color, blue. If you take a look in our previous example, you can see that one is blue. Then we have our Instagram color. So this one, Facebook color, LinkedIn color, Twitter color, and YouTube color. And that's actually also it for our variables file. Now we can also close this one up. We hit save, you can see we have success. And now if you take a look, if you click on this min CSS, you can see in the CSS already this CSS is created from our configuration. Now you can't see the variables right now because they aren't called. They just exist within their file, but they're not called, so they're not displayed in the SASS, in the CSS file. And I'm still getting confused. SASS, CSS, SASS, SASS. So next up, let's actually start creating. So we're here. Let's start first of all finishing up our main, because within our main we still have to do a few things. We still have to tick the body. I'm going to give it a font family of Roboto. You also need to import this from Google Fonts. I also have links for everything in the description below. And I would really recommend that you watch the previous video where I created this using CSS. Still getting confused, I know. The body should have a max width of 768 pixels and a margin auto, and the background color of primary color. So now the primary color is called. Now if you take a look in our CSS, you can see the color is called from our variables. So this one, hash of FFF. That's it, because we're not going to take care of the footer. That's not the important part of this tutorial. Now I can actually close also the main, this main, and we're going to take on our form. So let's take a look what we had in our form, in our social, in our CSS. So in our previous video, we created the form using CSS, and it starts right here. I'm going to just copy this in. Actually, till upon here. So copy this one in here. And as you can see, this is a bunch of CSS. Now, the main objective here is actually to shorten this down. So how can we do that? Well, first of all, I will take out all of this of these classes. And because in SASS we can nest things, I will just type in within here h1 should have a margin button. Actually, I'm just going to leave it in here. Then the span. Now I'm going to nest this span within our h1. You can see the h1, the span is nested within the h1, and the h1 is nested within the form container. And if we take a look in our HTML, go down to our form. In the form container class, we have our h1, and within our h1 we have these spans. So they are directly targeted within here. Now I could delete this, but I still also need the h2. And for our h2 I also have a margin bottom of 0.5 rem and a font size of 2 rem. Now I can already delete this, as you can see it stays the same. Now let's take care of the labels and the inputs. So within our social form, let's take a look now. CSS. So within our form with the class of social form, go back into our CSS. Let's just copy this class. And now first we're going to take care of the label. So copy the label in. And see that the label and the input have the same. So we can see that the label and the input have the same basic styling. So what we could do with this is to take this and create a mixin for this, so we don't repeat ourselves. So we go into the mixins. Let's make a comment in here. Form, label, and input style, or base style. Now the way we create mixins is by typing on @mixin. Now we're going to give it a name. Let's say base style, label, and input. I'm just going to copy this, paste it into our mixin, hit save, go back into our form, and instead of writing all this code, I'm just going to include the mixin that we just created. So take this name, go back into our include, save it, and now if I delete this, the styling for the label stays the same, and all we need to do is to make the same thing for our input. As you can see, it's back to normal. Now I also see that we have within our label a few other configurations. So we're going to take them, copy them into our label here, and we can already delete this. The same thing for the input. Take this, copy it in, hit save, and now we can delete them. Now I'm going to show you what a parent selector is. So if I stay within here, within our input, go down and hit the end, and now take this, submit class. This would target directly the parent, and our parent is the input. So as instead of typing in again input.submit with the class of submit and bum, 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 just target it within, we nest it within our input tag by targeting it as a parent, the submit class, and we styled it within the input tag. Now I can also delete this. Now we see that we have this input tag again with the class of submit, but when it's active, it should have a background color of some kind of green, box shadow, and so far and so on. So if the active does this, if I click it, as long as I hold the click, it executes. When I release the click, it turns back to normal. So now within this nested submit, we can now take the parent again and target it again. This time we're targeting the submit as the parent. So let's see, if I delete this, it should stay the same. As you can see, it's still working. Now, take a look at all this code right here. This is so easy to simplify. We can see that this part right here keeps repeating itself. So let's take it from the top. And in the h1 tag, there is a span, which has an ID of Insta. When it's targeted, after, the content should display Instagram with the visibility of visible, position of relative, color of a variable color, which you did in the CSS, an animation of social 2 seconds. The animation is down here, so it's this keyframe up here. This keyframe, which goes from 0 opacity 0 to 100% with the opacity of 100%. So let's do this up here within our h1, because we know that this is the h1. But first of all, we need to create a mixin for this. So instead of repeating all this code here, constantly repeating the same code, we're going to create a mixin again. So we're going to create this mixin and call it social title. Now we're going to copy in this code within our mixin, but we can see that we have here a variable. And the problem is that we need to, when we call Twitter, we want the Twitter to have the color of Twitter. So let's just go back into our variables, open this up, and the Twitter color is this one. So how can we create something that is called, but for example for LinkedIn, it should have the LinkedIn color? Now that's pretty easy, because mixins can also have variables within them. And I'm just going to create here a variable called color. And I'm going to take this variable and put it within here. So when I call this mixin of social title, it would ask me for the color. As soon as I type in the color within here, it will be passed down within this color. So let's take a look at how this looks. So we go back into our form and we actually go up where we created our span. There we go. And underneath our span, we're first going to target the visibility, going to tell it to be hidden. Now we're going to take the parent, so this span, and now just copy in this part right here. Actually, let's start with the Instagram. close this up. And now we will include this Mixin right here, social title. But here within the color, we're going to take our variable for Instagram. So this one right here. Go into our form again, and within our include, we're going to type in this Instagram. And when we click on the Instagram icon, anchor tag here, you can see Instagram already appears. If we click on Facebook, it appears, but the color is black. LinkedIn, color is also black. So the only thing we have to do is replace, wait just a second, replace all of this with what we did up here. Got it? So let's do this. I'm actually just going to delete all of this because we don't need it anymore. Go up here and start this should be face. So if you take a look at the ID, the second span has the ID of face, so we will target this. We targeted it. Then after should display Facebook. And then the variable should be face for the color. Now we click on Facebook, it appears with the color of Facebook. Now I'm just going to copy in the next ones, but I think you got the idea. So let's just really go quickly over them. The next one is LinkedIn. So we took the ID of LinkedIn from the parent, which is the span. We targeted it, and after should display the content of LinkedIn, and we will include, sorry about that, we'll include our Mixin, this social title, which also has a variable of color, oopsie, and the color is passed in within the color. This is the only thing that changes within this Mixin. Everything else stays the same. The same thing for Twitter, with the variable of Twitter and YouTube. So now let's see if this works. So YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and if we click on home, it all disappears. Now let's see, did we leave something out? Nope, that's pretty much it. And let's just take a look. So we actually created from here till here. So all of this code within here. Look, it's much shorter, isn't it? Okay, next up, let's take care of the navigation. So we go back into our CSS file. Let's see where the navigation starts. Okay, we have icon bars. So we have a class of icon bars. Now I'm actually just going to copy some of this in, because typing this out again isn't most productive. And just take a look at how much code we created here, and you will see how short it's going to be after that. So go back into our navigation and copy it in. Okay, it already appears, but with some problems. I'm gonna fix them. So we have our main class of icon bar from the nav. You can actually close the form, put this one right here, and also close this one. Now the A tags, we can actually take them, Ctrl X, and paste in here and delete this. Pum, 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 pum. This is already looking good. Now let's take the parent, so the A tag, and when we hover over it, can actually delete this. Should have the background color of black and the color of white. So only the anchor tags. Now this one is a bit different. I'm going actually to leave it almost as it is here, but I'm going to replace this with the variable of Insta. So if I hover over them, all the icons will first take the color of Insta. Whoa, there's a storm outside. Woo. Okay, getting back to our YouTube video. Then we have our nav icon, nav bar again, and then here I'm actually going to take the anchor tag again. I'm going to target the class of active, which we assigned to our very first icon tag. And this should have a background color of primary color, then the color of user, and I also wanted to give this a border, all around border of 2 pixels solid, and secondary, actually primary color, secondary color, variable secondary color. So this one right here. And now let's take the parent again, and when we hover over it, the background color should change to the secondary color. And the color should be the primary color. Okay, perfect. Did I miss something here? User. Okay. And now comes the interesting part. All the code here will be replaced with something much shorter, but a bit complexer. So if you don't understand something, leave the comments in the comment section below, and I will gladly respond to all of them. Now let's take a look at what we did here. So we took the initial class of icon bars, the A tag, and when it's active, the immediate class of FA Instagram, which is actually this icon class, should do something. It should change the color. Wait a second. Facebook, Instagram, and change the color to white. Okay, so let's do this. So we'll take the anchor tag, which is nested in the icon bars. Now the parent, when we have an active statement on it, the parent again, so this time the parent is the active, the immediate FA Instagram, immediate class of FA Instagram. And now comes an interesting part. Instead of having all of this, I will just create a Mixin for it. Actually, I'm going to create 2 Mixins. First Mixin, I'm going to call transition. because we can see that this transition repeats itself. So this transition mixin will just have this transition. Now I'm going to create a second mixin, which I'm going to call active icon. And within this active icon mixin, I will call this mixin. So I will include the mixin of transition and also the color of primary color. Now I just created the mixin using another mixin. So let's call our active icon mixin within our nav and within here. So I will include this active icon mixin. And we need to do this to each and every let me comment all of them out, to each and every icon. So we need to do it for the Facebook, for the LinkedIn, for the Twitter. I'm actually going to stop right here so you can see that this is working. The active is when I click on it, the color turns white. The last thing is the YouTube. I didn't modify it now, but I'm just going to start and delete all of them. So we created the icon for the Instagram, the active for the Facebook. I'm going to delete this. The active for the LinkedIn, for the Twitter. And now let's delete the YouTube and see if it's still working. No, it isn't. But hit save and copy this one in, change to YouTube. Now this is also working. Okay, next up we're going to take care of this, the active state, the hover state. And this pretty looks exactly like this one, excepting, so we're going to take the parent again, go above the active, gonna tell it when we hover over it, and we only need to do this, we don't need to do this for the Instagram, only for the Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. We forgot to put in the parent. So the parent, when we hover over a tag, this is what this means. Then the hover effect should change the Facebook icon to the variable of Facebook face. Why isn't this working? Not getting any errors, so next one is LinkedIn, then Twitter, then YouTube. Okay, so now let's take care of this part right here. Actually delete this. Delete this. No, wait just a sec. Now I'm going to create another mixin. And we'll call this one the active. And this will take in a background color of color, variable color. Which you also need up here. So color. So this variable will be passed in within here. And it also, we're gonna also include this transition. Now we did this in order to replace this. Now we're going to take the parent again. So the anchor tag. And we will assign it the class of Instagram. So this class right here. This one. And now we wanted when this is active, we will include our mixin. This active mixin. For this, we'll type in include active, and for the Instagram, we'll choose the variable color of Insta. So when I click on Instagram, well, why isn't this working? Oh, so let me just copy all of them in and also comment them out. Because these two are conflicting right now. It is searching for something that doesn't exist. Yep, now it's working. They're actually conflicting with the ones underneath. So let's go over this really quickly. So the A tag is selected here with the parent selector. The immediate Instagram class that we have here is now selected, and in its active state, we will include this mixin of active and we'll pass in the variable of Insta color. So in this mixin right here. And this mixin also contains the mixin of transition, which we created up here. Okay, we can still make this better. And instead of typing in this, we can do something called a for each loop. But for this, we first need to create a map. And a map is created, let's just put in comment, icon map. Actually, icon color map. And we create maps by, first of all, defining a variable. Call this icons. And now for each color that we have within our variables, we're gonna create a name. Actually, I'm going to use the same names that we have for Instagram and so far and so on. And we don't need this because this would be here. So I'm just going to leave this variable so you can see exactly what I'm creating here. Now the first one will be user. Just going to go it in here, grab this user, copy it in here, and we will assign it the color of the variable user. Next up will be Instagram. Comma, Instagram. With the variable color of Insta. Then just copy this. Then we have Facebook with this color. Then we have LinkedIn. With the variable of link. Then we have Twitter with the variable of tweet. And the last one is YouTube with the variable of YouTube. Now I can delete them, hit save, and this is our map. Now we're going to create another mixin. I'm going to name this BG active. So when the background color is active. Within this, we're going to create a each. Just type in each, and this is now asking us for a variable. For a variable within a list. Our list name is icons. I'm going to take this, copy it in here. Going to give this a name that we're looking for. So the variable icon name and the icon color. So for each name, which are these, and each color within our icon map, we want to do something. We want to append to the A tag a class. This is how we do this, hash, camera case, and now we can type in the variable of icon name, and in its active state, this should then have a background color with the variable of icon color. So this color will be passed in within here, and will also include a mixin with a transition from up here. Okay, so now we created our mixin. Now let's call it. I'm just going to copy the name of the mixin, go back into our navigation, and actually comment this out. Now as you can see, it shouldn't work anymore. Wait just a second. Okay, that was the problem. Now success, perfect. And now if we click on them, they aren't working anymore. So we took this PG active mixin that we created. We go back into our navigation as SASS. And we will include it by targeting this icon bar class. So going to target the parent, go within here, and then call include on Mixin. Hit save. Now if we take a look at this, it's working again. So instead of writing all this code, which also includes this Mixin active, you can also comment this one out, make sure this isn't working. We created a map, created another Mixin, and we included a transition. Now as you can see, it's still working. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Actually, I could do here a few things. So take this and put it within here. Nest it within here. Then I could call it as a parent again and say that under hover state, you should do this. Take this one out. This is nested now. And the last thing I could do is everywhere I have this FFs and blacks, replace them with primary and secondary color. So let me show you a neat trick. If I double click on this and go on my loop icon here and click it, it will show me everywhere that this is present. And I don't want to replace it in the style and not in the main, but only in the SASS files. So within here where it's, actually I also want the hashtag. So I want this, click this out and this out to be replaced with a primary color. Paste this one in here and then hit replace all. 2 items found, into navigation, and it's replaced everywhere with the primary color. If I would take, where do we have it? Do we add so many? Exactly here. So this, the secondary color, this hash of 111. Click the search icon, cancel this one out, and replace it with sec color. Hit replace. You can see it's replaced. Okay guys, so that's it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, thumbs up. If you didn't, thumbs down. Please don't forget to subscribe and see you in the next one. Bye bye.